Hello, wrestling friends. It's me, Matt Kuhn, and I'm here with the Gentleman Villain Podcast with Mr. William Regal and a very special episode of the Gentleman Villain Podcast. Mr. Regal, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Matt?
I'm fantastic. I'm fantastic.
Day. Yes.
It's a beautiful day. I think it's every day is a beautiful day to be Mr. Regal because I found some things out about you recently.
Oh, dear.
And yeah. So we talked last week about how we have an international following, more than not people internationally listening. But what I've discovered, Mr. Regal, is something I guess you already know, and I had no idea. I've never seen this much feedback from female podcast listeners. Mr. Regal, are you aware of the fact that you have like a large female fanship? And how long has this been going on? Because I had no idea, and it's real. It's real.
Oh, what do you want me to say? I don't know. I think it's the English accent. I believe it seems to. I don't know. You're making me blush. Actually, I don't know. I don't know what to answer with. That could be all kinds of braggadocious here, but no. It's very nice that the thought that ladies want to listen to me, but I have no idea why. No.
Well, I think objectively they say you're a handsome man, and also dear. I think it might be the accent as well, but
never used to be. When I was growing up, my mother used to have to tie a pork chop around my neck so the dog would play with me. I mean, I wasn't a nice looking child at all. In fact, when I was born, the midwife slapped my dad. So.
Well, no one's slapping anybody these days except you once in a while. Last week we had a really well received episode about your time going to WCW and all those subjects in between. We talked a little bit off air about how important it is maybe to kind of document all these things for you. Are you enjoying this whole process?
Yes, I'm very much enjoying it, and let's give the people exactly the same conversation we had off air. I've been very fortunate to be born at the right time and to be around the right wrestlers and to be around so much wrestling in so many different countries. I've always felt once I got sort of where I thought I was able to try to help people as much as people have helped me. And to get that knowledge, and it's not about me, it's just about things I've seen or things I've failed miserably at or seen other people excel at. I've had my ears and my eyes open the whole time, and I want to just be able to take everything that I've got in my wrestling brain and give it to every young wrestler if they want it. And it's got nothing to do with my style, or it's not about styles. It's just about getting through this job or making a living out of it. And there's a few people that are around me a lot and have spent a lot of time around me, but you've got to listen to all these stories, and because I'm not good at putting things in formulas. And I also don't believe that there is not just one right way, but any right way. It's whatever works for your audience, whatever works for you. Every single talent and every audience member, it's a different thing that connects us to each other. And I just want to leave that out there because there's only a few people that can be around me a lot. Brian Danielson being one of them. And even there's things that I've never had time to talk to him about, or the topics haven't come up, or certain situations. And I remember at the beginning of COVID, he called me up and said, look, I need some help with something because I'm not used to working in front of no crowd. So I'm not going to get into that discussion now, but it was a deep discussion. I remember Edge calling me when he was doing a match with Randy Orton, which was billed as the greatest wrestling match of all time. And he wanted ideas. And so I've got all these different things that I can tap into. Well, I'd like to leave that for everybody, whether they want it or not. It's there. If we do enough of these podcasts, enough topics will come up and enough questions and enough situations that hopefully at least most of what's in my brain is left on out there, let's put it that way.
Sure.
For people in whatever amount of years that go by can go back and listen to and learn what not to do. That's what I would like to do, because there's only so much time I've got left in this world. Let's not kid ourselves, right? I'm 54 now, and 70 will be that quick, right? And once I've gone, and once people like Finley have gone, and lots of other people I can mention, that whole, first of all, the whole European thing and Robbie Brookside and people, once we've gone, that part of that world is gone. There's nobody left.
Right.
Then there's my American and my Japanese stuff from a different time period, and keeping in up into it this day, and being able to help younger talents. That there's not too many people that are willing to give you as much time as I am. But you've got to listen to a lot of stuff, because not everything will connect with you. And so I want to leave out there, because it's not fair that I've got it and I'm going to disappear. And
right.
I don't ever want to be a day when there's some young child like me, when I was a teenager, there isn't a wrestling business for them to get into. And instead of, and this is not to, I don't want to start, because, and believe me, it won't have any effect on me if anybody from any other podcast or any writers about anything will write anything, because I won't listen to it and I won't read it. But I don't want to get into anything about that. But a lot of people do this and have characters where they want to cause, they like to get people talking and all that kind of stuff. That's not what this is all about. This is about my life as a journeyman wrestler, traveling all over the world and being just a bit player most of the time, but being a bit player around a hell of a lot of things and seeing what works and what doesn't. And I want that to be left there. No different than we talked a little bit last week about, I was taught by the good people in Britain that took me under their wings. Will your wrestling still hold up in 30 years? Well, mine does, because of and because of the way they taught me. Well, I want that to be for the next generation and the next generation, if this is documented. So that being said, something that came up last week, which is going to come up a lot in my stories and things that happened, is Chris Benoit.
Yes, sir.
And because he was a big part of a certain amount of time of my life, and we're known, what doesn't matter, and this is nothing to do with any of the horrible things that happened. It's just that it's a part of my life that I wrestled him a lot, and I knew him. For some unknown reason, this week has been the week that people have let me know, again, because I don't follow too much stuff. I have to go on Twitter a couple of times a week just to try and promote this show, or to look at a few things that I want to look at. There's been a few things turn up about me and him.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to clarify. I think the reason is this week was there's a very popular podcast called Crime and Sports, and they had a Chris Benoit episode this week.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that.
And I think that's why people started just shooting off about it. I can't think of any other reason why it would be this week, but you're saying you caught a bit of that yourself.
There is a piece of film footage on the night after the incident where we were doing a show, Raw, and there is an interview with me, and people read into this very wrongly. And the consensus that seems to be out there is that I knew more than what was happening. I want to just take this time to put my story out there and let people know this is, because this story is out there. It's just that it seems to be that nobody wants to pay any attention to it, and they want to sensationalize this into something it isn't. For the last, it's many years anyway, myself and Chris used to live in the same neighborhood, and my wife was friendly with Chris's wife, Martina, and she loved David, his son. There's another reason you won't hear any more after this from me, because I have too much respect for Martina, for David, for Megan, and for Nancy's sister, Sandra. This is my one time that I will talk about this, except for I'm going to have to mention him in matches and different things. I do not understand, this is just me personally, why people want to thrive off the misery of this, especially when there's children involved, and Sandra and Chris's ex-wife. They have their lives to lead. Just leave them alone. That's my piece on that. The particular Sunday that this all started, Chris didn't turn up for work. I knew what a pro Chris was, and it was making me, I wasn't paying a lot of attention because it was a show, and I'm busy doing stuff. I started to think, where is he? This doesn't add up. He's never not turned up to work. Years before that, Chris had left his wife, and because we lived in the same neighborhood, my wife was very friendly with Chris's wife. My wife would not have Chris anywhere near my house. So although we lived in the same town, eventually Chris moved to 6 miles away from where I live. Once he was with Nancy. Chris knew that he was not allowed near my house. So any of our social life ended then. It had ended before because we used to knock around with each other in the 90s. Well, by the 2000s, I wasn't going out anymore. So when we were back together in WWE, our only time that we were ever together was at work. But after the incident when Chris left with Nancy, my wife banned him from the house. And Chris understood that, and that was just the way it was. So we had no contact at all except for at work. And I never traveled with Chris. I'd stopped traveling with him in the 90s. We weren't compatible as traveling partners. We got on good together, but we didn't travel together, because sometimes you have to find a compatible traveling partner. I didn't travel with him. So he knew that. We were completely, the only time we ever were around each other after the, what was it, 97, whatever, whenever that was, at work. We still had a, hello, how you doing? And that was it. And he understood the situation with my home, that he wasn't allowed. And because we lived 6 miles apart, we never saw each other.
And to be clear, your wife was still friendly with Martina, his wife, right? I
think that was you'd have to ask my wife that. Okay. That was something that has gone, and she's not going to answer that. Right. Not going to be on here to answer that. Sure. But that was a separate deal. So me and Chris had nothing to do with each other, except for occasionally I've been to his house. and occasionally. So this is how little we had to do with each other. He'd moved and he hadn't told me. So the house that all these terrible things happened in, I didn't even know where it was. I knew it was not far from where I lived, as far as probably another 6 miles away or so. I'm not sure, because I still don't know where it is. He hadn't told me when. That's how little we had. And if you go back and you'll look at phone records and whatever people have dug up, you won't find my anything to do with me, because we understood this situation. Okay, so the day of the actual the Sunday when we were hearing certain well, I heard that he hadn't come to work. I asked my wife to go around to his house to check, because that just didn't sound right to me. Now I've got to live with this on my conscience, right? And it wasn't. It's not a nice thing to think about, because goodness gracious, what she could have walked in on. And I called her and said, look, can you find out where Chris lives? She said, well, first of all, I don't know where he lives, because he hasn't told us. Secondly, no, I'm not going round his house because I don't like him. Okay, so that was the end of that. The following day, we get to Raw in Corpus Christi. There's people who say that people knew what was going on. I didn't know anything. I was walking around in somewhat of a daze all day. And in fact, there's a bit of the day, all day, I was calling my house to check on my family, because for some reason I had this notion when we'd heard of these terrible things that had happened. I had no way, shape, or form would I have thought that Chris was anything to do with that. That is proven by what I just said, that I'd asked my wife to go around there on Sunday night. Right? Do you think I was going to ask my wife to go to his house if I thought there'd be anything going on? Right? On the Monday, when we're hearing this thing, I'm in a daze. But I start to think, what if there's some insane person going around doing horrible things to people? And this is in my mind. Could be my family next. Could be somebody who doesn't like wrestlers, because I didn't know any of the facts. And I ended up going and sitting outside, because we were in Corpus Christi, overlooking the sea, just keeping out the way of everybody all day long. So eventually and again, there was a lot of people like that, just walking around. I'd walked into the building a few times and nobody was saying anything, not to me anyway. Again, maybe it was just me, that maybe I'm naive here, but there was nobody said anything to me in any way, shape, or form, until I was asked to go in and do a video, do this video. And as a tribute, as I'm about to walk in, there's a red light on outside the door, meaning somebody's actually filming something. And they said, we were told, if you want to go and give a tribute, go in. Now I've been but I'm calling my family constantly. Are you okay? Are you okay? Because I don't know. I have no clue. And I'm just thinking, trying to make sure my family is okay. Because whatever amount of miles Chris lived away from me, I don't know. I want to make sure they're okay. As I am the red light goes off and the door opens. And as I'm going in to give my tribute, JBL comes walking out with a very strange look on his face. And he said to me, as we, for about a minute that we're crossing paths, he just said to me, You don't think he's had anything to do with it, do you? And I went, what? And that was the first thing that of any notion of anything that went on. That was the first time that I've heard this. And now I'm walking in. And so whatever you see me doing in that is me being, well, now my head's spinning.
Right.
What is this? What don't I know what has happened? So if you watch it from that perspective, it may seem, because I am in a complete shock, but also thinking, well, I don't know. Is this what's happened? I don't know. So I just deliver whatever you see, and I've never watched it again. Now I know there's things there's been put out nonsense and about I knew this or that is the exact thing that happened, right?
Certainly makes sense. Like
right.
as soon as you said that, I was
right. Yeah. The first thing I heard about anything to do with any of that, and then afterwards, after that, I'm walking around in a daze, and nobody's told me, and I didn't find out till I got back to the hotel that night, which is in Corpus Christi, and I called my wife, and my wife told me what had gone on, or what was getting put around in the news anyway. That was my day. And then the following day, we were driving on to another show, and then people started calling me, asking me what was going on, and I was going, I've got no idea. And I mean, I really had no idea. And I found out more on the Tuesday. Monday, I was completely oblivious until that one brief meeting with JBL where he said that to me, and my wife telling me at the end of the night once I got back to my hotel room. So that is my part of it. I will not have it again. I'm not going to go into any more about this ever again. If you want to believe that, you can. If you don't, that's up to you. But I'm telling you, and I can give you on my children's lives that is the exact thing that happened to me. And I believe me, I wouldn't say that if that isn't the truth. That is the exact. That was the situation. What happened? And I will not be talking any more about this, so please don't ask any questions. But there is time. I'm not, and it's not glorifying. I've got not one of these people who is going to glorify anything or try to say this or that about Chris. He's just part of my history, and his name's going to get brought up constantly if we keep talking because of certain matches and certain situations and certain styles of wrestling and things and places that I've been, because he was there a lot of the time. So that is that. There is one other thing that I want to say. There is a nonsense rumor going around, and was even, I believe, written in a book, that Dave Taylor was at the house that day. That is absolute nonsense. And if you ever need proof of that, Dave Taylor was in Texas. I'm not going to get into Dave's side of the story. Dave Taylor was in Texas. He still has his flight receipts because he got them. And he also has his hotel receipt. And I will tell you how it may have, whoever was reporting on this may have thought that Dave wasn't there and then made up this nonsense of story that Dave was at the house, at Chris's house. There used to be a system in the WWE where you could get so much cash a night and you had to sign for it. Most of the time I never took any, and Dave certainly didn't take any. He would bring whatever money he needed with him and didn't take it.
Now, so when someone talks about taking a draw, that's what they mean.
Taking a draw. If you might have heard that expression, you could take a draw.
Right.
Well, sometimes if you didn't take a draw, it slipped through the cracks. And sometimes I'd get my check and I would go, and it only happened occasionally, but hang on, how come I haven't got paid for that day? And because I hadn't took a draw, it was just the occasional thing that would happen that somehow something wasn't
a glitch.
Right, a glitch.
Right.
Dave Taylor has absolute proof now. This is after 9/11, so for him to be able to get his flight things, it take a genius villain to get that right. So that's another complete piece of nonsense that needs putting to bed. Dave Taylor had nothing to do with that. Dave was with us. Me and Dave we'd seen each other that day, and we were shaking heads like in a daze, because he knew Chris as well for a long time. And it was that kind of a day. And I know there's lots of people that will say that there's this and there's that. I'm telling you, from my perspective, most people were walking around on that Monday like zombies, just stared. I remember seeing quite a few people just walking around like not knowing, and me being one of them. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, because that seems to have come up this week. And
yes, sir.
No, I had no clue about any of that. Again, and because of the time period, I had no clue. There's just no, and that was why, because he was just banned from being around. We didn't hang out together, except for when we were at work and it was hello, and we'd wrestle occasionally. So now that that's done, I will never be met, but I will be mentioning Chris's name throughout this, because that's part of my life.
A lot of wrestling podcasts with people like yourself, we're still figuring out how to navigate this particular thing. But what you're saying, and what I agree with, is as far as this particular component, this is the end of it for you, talking about it forever. Yep. And you've said what you need to say, and I'm glad you did.
And I just wanted that out there. And again, it's that's it. It's done. So don't. There's three things that follow me around. We've talked already on this episode about two of them.
Right. Is Goldberg the third?
There's the Bill Goldberg situation, which is complete and utter nonsense and blown out of proportion. There's the drug thing, which is blown out of proportion when you realize that for the 18 months that I was not in the best of ways, there was several periods, nearly 2-month periods in that 18 months when I was completely stone cold sober. So, but that seems to follow me around as well, and it's 22 years ago.
Yeah.
So those three things are the things that seem to follow me about. I've put those all. Well, we've still got some discussion. There'll be some discussions about some of it. There'll be no more discussions about
absolutely
the Chris thing. That is what happened. That is why I seem a little suspect on that piece of footage that you can see, is because I've just heard that, and it is going around my head thinking, well, I better cover myself here, and because I don't know what's happened. And the shock, I was really in shock. I was in shock anyway, right. And then even more in shock. Right, I can imagine that. Right, the shock of the fact that what had happened, and now, oh my goodness, and with no thought whatsoever that could have possibly happened.
And JBL slips that little sense to you, great, and red lights on, go.
Like and it was. I walked straight in, and it was go, and I'm just okay. Well, I've got to say something, because there's a line of people outside waiting to get in, and what I should have done was just walk away right then.
Yes, sir.
To get my thoughts together. I mean, that's the only. I should have walked to, as soon as he said that, I should have followed him and gone and left the next person to, because my head was wrecked.
Right.
My head was proper wrecked then, and I just walked in and said what I said. but having to think, oh, what, all these things, and that's why it's delivered the way it's delivered.
Well, those are the three things you said that follow you around. But the thing is that what we enjoy on the podcast are the other stuff. And it's no easy transition, but we're going to try anyway, because we are going to talk about today a great match. And really what I've found to be the most interesting part about talking to you is the wrestling matches. And we're going to talk about Cesaro versus William Regal in 2013. But of course,
which
before
ended
we
up being my final match, my final proper match. There were certain people that I knew my time was coming to an end for the last few years, because if you haven't off this podcast, I've seemed to be doing a lot of podcasts in the last 3 or 4 months. But I went into very deep detail of it on Chris Jericho's podcast and other people's. That there were certain people who I liked a lot, and I wanted to make sure that I did certain matches. I didn't have to. I just wanted to, because they were people who I liked. And Daniel Bryan was one, and then it ended up being Jon Moxley, and then there was a match with Chris Hero, and there wasn't a follow-up, which probably should have been a follow-up. Then there was the match with Cesaro, and Cesaro, I knew that things weren't right, and the following was within 6 months, I had I think it was the May of the 2014. I never did another match on TV anyway. I might have got called in to do a match on a live event somewhere, but I can't remember. But because I was so heavily involved in the recruiting process, we were in Dubai, and in front of 30 people that were trying out, I did a match with Sami Zayn. But again, that was with no people. It was just a match in a CrossFit gym in Dubai.
Was that a sold show? Was that something?
No, it wasn't a sold show. It was we were doing a tryout with 30 athletes.
Oh, okay.
A lot of them, and Sami came with us because he speaks Arabic, right. And a lot of them had never seen professional wrestling.
Wow.
And so it was just I said, let me and you, at the end of this 3-day tryout, we had a match. And 2 weeks later, my legs went from under me, which is, I've told on Chris's, so I'm sure that'll come up on this podcast again. Yes. But my legs went, and I had to have my first neck surgery, and I never wrestled again. So the actual last match that was on film was against Cesaro, and it couldn't have been against anybody I thought more highly of. And I knew my time was coming to an end. I didn't want to, certainly there's nothing to have any fanfare about. I'm just a bit player in the wrestling job, but I just wanted to do it with make sure there was certain people not make sure, but I wanted to have matches with. I did those matches, and it just ended up that Cesaro, I knew it was, I was 45 then. I'd had 30 years of being a wrestler. I knew things weren't right. I knew my neck wasn't right. My arms were withering away. I tore my bicep and my pec, a few years before. Everything was falling to bits. And I knew that it's time to call it quits. I was moving into another part of I was already pretty much out of wrestling anyway. I was just finishing off. So I didn't know if I had any more left in me, but I'm very glad that it ended up being this match we're going to talk about, because it was with the perfect person to have it with, who meant a lot to me, and who is a real part of my life and has been since the early 2000s, and couldn't have been with a better person and a better pro. So that's ended up being my last match.
Well, we're definitely going to get into it, get into some film study of it, really get into the nuts and bolts of the match and ask the questions that all the fans want to hear. But before we do, we're going to talk about Carshield, because this episode is brought to you, by Carshield. They make it easy and affordable to protect your car, my car from expensive repairs. And that's just for starters. Carshield is the #1 auto protection company in the U.S. and offers protection plans for around $100 a month. The plans cover more parts than ever before, whether your car has 5,000 miles or 150,000 miles. Mr. Regal, if you don't mind, let me tell you how simple it is to get your car fixed. Is that okay with you?
Pray tell.
Yeah, sure will. See, when you need a repair, you choose the mechanic, and the Carshield's administrators handle the rest. That's it. You don't have to deal with paperwork or headaches. You're taken care of. Same goes if your car breaks down and you're stuck on the side of the road, which has happened to all of us. Plans through Carshield also include coast-to-coast roadside assistance. Carshield administrators are there for you with rental car options and trip reimbursement at no extra cost too. Get coverage today and you'll lock in your price now and it will never go up. That means as long as you own your car, no matter how old it is, you're protected from the rising costs of parts and repairs for your vehicle. Carshield helps protect my wallet from expensive car repairs, and they'll do the same for you. Go to carshield.com/podcast to start your plan and lock in your pricing forever. That's carshield.com/podcast. A deductible may apply. Mr. Regal, you ready to get started on talking about your last match? The cool thing I noticed, of course, there was some, prologue to the match. We'll probably talk about that more in depth another time. But this particular match, strangely enough, they placed on the year in review episode of NXT. It's the Christmas episode 2013. If you want to watch it, you can queue it up, but we're going to stop a lot, so not sure how that will work. But everything else is a recap of the year, match of the year, feud of the year. But this match with Mr. Regal and Antonio Cesaro is coming up. We hear from Antonio, and then we hear from you. Mr. Kaufman, can we set that up? Let's give everybody a listen to what Mr. Regal had to say.
I'm in the late autumn of my 30-year career, and recently I've been pondering over the legacy of William Regal. What's it all been about? I'm a vicious and sadistic and spiteful fighter. I've been a unique entertainer. I never achieved the one thing that I coveted the most, and that was to become the world heavyweight champion. But that's my fault, because I have a wonderful knack of getting myself into a lot of trouble. But to the people who really know, I've always been a second-to-none world-class technical wrestler. That was until Antonio Cesaro came along. Because I know, even on my best day, he's 10 times the man and the wrestler that I've ever been. And he knows that. And that's what this is really all about. He has an intense desire to prove it, and I truly commend him for it. I'm going into this match knowing that the only chance I've got of surviving, let alone winning, is a miracle. And that's not coming to a faithless old villain like myself. I'm not worried or scared of my plight. In fact, I'm relishing the thought. I am going to compete with every drop of violent venom that I've got left. And if this is the end, well, I honestly can't think of a more noble way to go than being beaten by the ultimate competitor.
Mr. Regal, all due respect, but holy shit, that was really good. It just, before you talk about it, if I've seen you in film critique people's promos and talk about them when you were at NXT, if you put on your coach's hat and you're actually looking at that particular interview segment that particular wrestler did, how'd he do?
He did fairly well.
He really did, man. He really did.
There was no wrestler sayings in there. No wasted seconds. No, you see, let me tell you something. Those kind of things. I summed up my whole career. There was a little bit in there that wasn't an exact fact, but I play on the character.
You're talking about becoming a world champion.
Become a world champion.
Yeah, but
I just, because I know people talk about that, and so I threw that in there with the little pauses and the look of regret and sort of realized that, as with everything, which is a reality with me, is that I take everything on the chin, and so there's nobody to blame. So I think I got every point across that needed to get across. I put over my opponent. I did something that you should never do. I mean, that's the only promo that I think I've ever done, and I'm sure there's other people can do them as well, but that you say that you're actually going to go in there and get them beaten.
Right.
But still have people actually care.
Right.
Because although I've said all those things, you still think that again, we've said this before, there's nothing and nobody bigger than myth, right? Most of the stuff about me is a myth. But I have a lot of time invested. If you've watched my career, even if you've only watched it for certain periods of time, people. But what I did was sum all that up, whether you've seen it or not, there by the different parts of my career, the fighting, the technical wrestling, the entertaining stuff. So I told you all that, and then like playing on the character. Well, that's actually not playing on the character that I'm a faithless old villain. I mean, that's just that's right. I'm not a villain, but I am a rogue, and I hold my hands up to that. I mean, it's well documented. It's just, but Soul put the person over, which was Claudio Cesaro, put him over as exactly as he is. He is a better man and a better person than me. He's not got the faults that I've got. Same with Bryan Danielson. They don't have those. I could have done the same promo about Bryan Danielson.
Sure.
I just didn't get to. Right. I could have done, I never gave that a second thought, that promo. Nobody wrote that for me because I had a lot of trust. I was just asked to film that. I did it in one take, and that was it. It was just me going in there doing that. So all in all, I think I did a pretty good job of that. And it really couldn't be any better to sum up and to finish my career off. But give you a little bit of hope that maybe he can just pull one out.
And also giving us someone that we want to win, right? Like even
you want to win, yeah.
You have a little doubt. You have some doubt. You're underdogging. But for us as fans, we go, man, maybe he's underplaying himself a little bit, and we really want him to win. The first of all, emotion. When I teach music, I teach not just notes. I teach the other things in music, and emotion is one of those things. It's a very important component of everything, and I see emotion in two ways with this. Number one, the way you reacted to watching it. So I'm curious as to how you felt watching it just now, but also when you're doing that, what we call a promo. I hate to use those kind of terms, but the promo that you're doing. Are you feeling that emotion? Because it totally seems like you are.
Yes. And you can see the little wry smiles on my face at certain times.
It's not play acting. It's not. It's real emotion, right?
We've said this before. Again, you're going to hear the same things off me a lot of the times, but that's at the beginning of this, we talked about me wanting to leave a wrestler's life on for other wrestlers to try to save them a lot of time or to get through this. And it's nothing to do with stars, but you've got to have that connection. And for those listening, I'm pointing at my brain. So it starts in your brain and it goes into your heart, and then it comes out I always point to the eyes, but it comes out on your face or through your eyes. Your eyes to me are the most important thing. Some people have just got magic. If John Cena or The Rock could walk out with a paper bag on their head and they'd still be John Cena or The Rock, right? Because they're just in a different world of magic.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
As far as when but for normal people like me, you need that connection, and your eyes are an incredible part of that, of selling that, or your face, but especially your eyes. If you meet somebody that can't look you in the eyes, do you ever trust them? No. So that's human beings connect by the eyes, right? If you think about this, that's how human beings connect. Is usually the first thing you do is connect by the eyes. Not everybody, and I've noticed with the younger generation that it's not such a big thing anymore, and I don't know what that is. There's something but that's. I'm just coming. I'm 54, so I come from a different time, and it was that was the old saying: never trust anybody who can't look you in the eye. Well, now we know that that's not the case, because certain people have certain conditions that you can't, it doesn't make it comfortable for them to look in the eye. So I understand that, but it seems to be far more than that now, that people aren't as, I think, and I don't want to go off about phones again, but I was going to say
it's not to be a smart ass, but
everybody's, they're looking at phones and having conversations at the same time. It's just
watching TV and
watching TV and having
at the same time,
at the same time, which is just that's okay. It's just sign of the evolution. Yes, sign of the times and evolution of man. That's just the way it goes. But from my point of view of my age group, that was a thing. So I'm selling those three connections. There's not one second of that promo where that connection isn't there, of the mind, heart, and eyes. And I'm selling the sorrow of the fact that I didn't ever achieve the thing that I wanted to achieve. But knowing that it's my fault and there's nobody to blame for that but me, knowing that, openly admitting that I'm not a good person, but with a little nod and a wry smile, and quite happy to tell you that, but still make you feel like you've just become this. Because at that time it was a thing that had happened. I'd become this. I think it was because I was still alive. I was people were just sort of. I'd become this thing that he's still around, and like people just started liking me, because I worked really hard to make people not like me.
Right.
I really, which is another podcast that one day we'll get into some of that. But I really, really went to town on learning all the tricks I had to make people not like me. That was, but it just got to a point where it became I could still play the exact same character, but with a wink, wink. I'm an old rogue, and it became part of me once I got into my 40s. It was just the way it was, and I could pull that off. So yeah, I mean that was as I
like, you look back,
if you only see that. Sorry, if you only see that promo or any of my, if I'm in doing characters in WWE, I'm different stages of my career there, where I'm Goodwill ambassador, where I'm, basically being horrible,
legacy,
but
right?
but smiling at you and telling and actually truly believing that I was helping you. That that was the direction I was giving. So giving it all I had to make that work. But if you go back and watch, I mean that I was always like that with promos. If once I got my flow going, if you see some of the stuff that in '96, the stuff with me and Gene on Nitro and that, and I could just bam, 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 bam. So I'm comfortable with myself. I was comfortable with my character. I know that I can get away with things that other people can't because I'm comfortable with myself and
Right.
people perceive me as something. So I haven't got to try and pretend to be anything. And I can go the exact opposite. I can play. It's just because of what I am. I can put myself down and it can still work. Whereas some people, that would be the end of them. They have to constantly tell you how good they are. I can go the opposite way and talk about that. If any of the commentary I used to do at that time when I was doing commentary on the original NXT and that, I'm just talking about the ridiculous stuff that I could say that I wasn't just that, like I remember doing something, having to commentate on a JBL match once, and Michael Cole saying something about, and I am what I am and I dress the way I dress and that, but saying what a successful businessman JBL was. And I'm saying, yeah, I'm the exact opposite. I was a failure during the boom, like just, I can put myself down and it still works for me.
Right.
Whereas, and any old British comedy fans will know that that's a Les Dawson line. He was a comedian that I studied, was a master of that. His whole thing was putting himself down. Well, I could add that into my character, even though I'm dressed in a $2,000 suit. Well, I can still say these things about myself and talk about just that most people couldn't get away with because of the character and because I'd created whatever these things are, and I don't have to try and prove anything. So I can get away with a lot more. So that promo summed all that up anyway. That summed up my career. That summed up what I was about to face, which was a dragon.
Yes, sir.
I'm going in there as a dragon slayer, but a slightly lame one, because I know I'm on my last days as my dragon slaying days are over. And even telling you that I used to be a dragon, but I'm in this situation. I'm not. I'm the person who's gonna get a good hiding here, but somehow pull that off. So yeah, I would say that was a decent promo.
Well, let me tell you one thing, Mr. Regal. If you're looking to be a dragon slayer in the bedroom, you can try some Bluechew.
Here we go. Here we go.
Guys, it is summertime and it's time to bring the heat in the bedroom. That's right. This episode is sponsored by Bluechew. Guys, confidence can take you far in life. You can also help in the bedroom, especially when it comes time to step up to the plate. That's where Bluechew comes in. Of course, we know it's a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. And you can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead. Or if you're not a planner, you can be ready whenever an opportunity arises. You see what they did there, Mr. Regal?
Well, I'm just going to tell you again. Like, right, I'm English and we would do things a little different. My wife still has a washing line where she hangs she'd rather hang the washing line in this nice weather. Well, it broke the other day, so I half a dozen of them down me, and I've stood out on the deck. It's a good job none of the neighbours could see, but she had all the towels, all that put out, and they were lovely and soft and dry at the end of that. And I got a bit of a tan.
And if you burned, of course, the Bluechew would help keep the covers off of you so you can sleep at night as well.
Absolutely. Yes.
And, if in case you want to help your wife, hang up the laundry, so to speak, you can sign up at bluechew.com and consult with one of their licensed medical providers. And once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online. So no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, no waiting in the pharmacy. Of course, the stigma is getting less and less, but still, it's a bit of a relief not to have to deal with all that. Of course, they're made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door in a discreet package. And of course, everybody knows that, it's summertime. We might want to just chill a little bit. But if we want to get off the couch and get back to work, or if your tool needs an upgrade, head to Bluechew.com. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, Bluechew can help. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Bluechew free when you use our promo code Gentleman. There's nothing gentle about this, but use the promo code Gentleman at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's Bluechew.com, promo code Gentleman. Not men, but man, to receive your first month free. Visit Bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Bluechew for sponsoring the podcast and Mr. Regal for that great story. Mr. Regal, are you ready to get started watching this match? William Regal, the announcer, the old hand versus the young and gigantic and powerful Antonio Cesaro.
Yes, let's go. This is going to be weird because this is I try.
First time you've seen it,
I put out, right? Yeah, and I this was the last match I ever had. Wow. Really, the last proper match I had after a 30-year career. And what's mad is that it's nearly 9 years now, and it's gone so quickly. But that if there's anything to be learned from that, ladies and gentlemen, make every second you have on this earth enjoy it.
You've said 1,000 times that the older you get, the quicker it goes by.
Time goes. 9 years. It'd be 9 years in November since this was filmed.
Well,
and my career ended that day.
For those of you listening at home, it's more of a stop along, or what they would do at developmental, a film study or a match study. So we're going to cue it. We're not going to give you any time codes. We're going to talk about what we see, and hopefully this will be entertaining for you at home as well as those watching on YouTube and also adfreeshows.com. So Mr. Kaufman, whenever you're ready, get started. And when I guess if one of us says pause, we'll pause and we'll talk and we'll unpause, as they say. Go ahead whenever you're ready, Mr. Regal. Or I'm sorry, Mr. Kaufman.
On this special episode of NXT,
ladies and gentlemen, to the NXT Rewind main event match. I'm Tom Phillips, along with Byron Saxton and Tensai.
So you can go ahead and kill the volume there. Mr. Regal, one thing I noticed is that the promo you did really relates to the match. Like, it's not just that you're giving a promo about the match, but the match tells the story that the promo did. Was that something intentional, something you talked to Claudio about?
Never talked to Claudia about anything in this match. We just went out and did the match. Yeah, I'm definitely from a different time, and we just went out and wrestled. It's wonderful to see Howard Finkle here. That has absolutely made my week. I couldn't believe when he was there, and he was just visiting, and I couldn't believe it. And I could please have Howard. Because Howard announced so many of my matches, and there was never been a greater ring announcer. And to have Howard there was something special. So not only going into this match, of course, we're not showing what was going to, it may have probably been my last match, and which it ended up being. But against somebody who I rate so highly. But having the incredible Howard Finkle as the ring announcer, what a looking back now, what a perfect way to go out.
Right, and when we're watching Cesaro in the ring, he's doing the We the People deal. Not quite understood where he was in that, but coming out now, and I liken this to Braveheart when he's taking the gallows. Like you coming out, it's like you're going to the gallows. But you're not going down without a fight. You're not losing your pride. You're going to go out and give everything you got. Is that what you're trying to put out there with this walk?
Yes, and that was just and that was the mindset going out there. That you get to a certain stage in this where we all start off where we start off, but you've got two professionals here who, whatever you may think about wrestling, we're not playing at this now. This is I'm looking across that ring, and we're going to beat each other. That I try to tell younger talent this. Never forget that feeling. That first night you're on the job, don't assume anybody knows who you are. So you go out doing everything right, and look at that person across the ring. Like, if I don't beat him or her, I'm going to go hungry tonight.
Right.
That's a lost thing in wrestling, isn't it? The winner's purse. They used to say that a lot years ago, and it keeps you in that frame of mind that this is the I've got to beat this person, and you've got that look on your eyes, and you've got the way your body motion. It makes you like believe in what you're doing, and it's nice to see this. So wrist lock, proper wrist lock. We talked about this last week.
There if we can, Mr. Kaufman. So the match starts right away. You guys lock up. You kind of get this, reverse chin lock quickly thing, and it turns into this wrist control. And what I saw and what we talked about last week was how you say the proper way to apply the leverage. It seemed to me that you guys were literally fighting for wrist control during these segments. Is there more take than give, or how does that work in here, if you don't mind saying?
There is no right. It's just what you do as the way, especially European style. That was very pre-90s style of European wrestling. Was a lot of wrist control to start with, and that was just normal for us. Claudio came in at a different time, but most of what he studied was old European wrestling, and so that was just normal stuff. You go for the wrist and you work down to weakening a body part when you can get to it, or stay on the wrist. It's that's just part of normal stuff for us. Don't even think about it. You're just going to take that wrist and try and control it, and because you can take people down very easily with it. And it also is different than that's another thing. If we do that, it doesn't matter what's been on the show before. I know nobody's will have done that. Not to this extent, but that's about as much thought as I put into it. If you're going to start asking me about what the thought process was we were trying to beat each other.
Right. And is it instinct is at this point, because you've done it so long, it's instinct and trusting somebody else who you also feel has the similar kind of ability to follow their instincts.
Yes. And he's watched me more than a few times, and I've watched him more than a few times. So it's just two pros just doing their thing. And both of us very proud of the fact that we're European wrestlers and keeping that as much of that style alive. And I'm going to, the thought in my head going into this was no idea of what we were going to do, but to make this completely different to anything else that you'll probably see. Keep it as European style or traditional European style as possible, and to react to each other in the correct way. And I've just remembered this now. Now I've seen the beginning of this. I didn't have to say this to Claudio, but this is what I was thinking. I want to leave, if this is my last match, I want to leave a blueprint for younger wrestlers, even though I'm old and beat up and I was struggling, to train for this match. I had to really buckle down because everything was shot, but I was back, doing as many squats and push-ups and kettlebell swings and whatever else I had to do to do this. I wanted to leave a detailed, I have to use this term now, but detailed selling of the minute little details that I had to work on, because I don't have any flash. I do the world's worst cartwheel and I can do a half decent kip up. That's my athletic ability. What I did have, and because of the teachers that I had the wrestling skills, but I also had, you cannot see through my tricks as far as stuff looks good, and the actual reacting to the moves it's seamless. So it's not a. It doesn't. Nothing looks out of place. It looks like two people. It looks like a perfect fight scene in a movie. If the fight scene was based around the rules of pro wrestling. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So, Mr. Kaufman, as you press play again, we can know that everything we're seeing, folks, in this match, when you watch it, is organic.
Right, can I just stop you there for a second?
Oh, go ahead and pause it.
Here's a little tip for... Are we able to go back a little second? Okay. When somebody... I don't usually like to do this, but why not? Because this is a match where I can naturally show you these things. Whenever you get tucked down by a wrist lock, turn up on your side. First of all, you take the pressure off. See where my body goes. It goes all the way around with the twist of the wrist lock. Now, when you turn up on your side, I only go onto my back again when I'm trying to get out. I turn up on my side so that everybody in the building can see me. If I lay on my back, you can't see my reaction as well. You can't see my body motion. Look. And now look, just little things. I'm pushing him off. I'm not just lying there. There's little tiny, I'm constantly moving, trying to get the advantage. And he's keeping that on, trying to push his legs down, but it's too strong. He's finally get it down. It's not an instant, not just going through the motions of it. All right. First thing in front of me is his chin. So I'm going to try and wrench his chin. And he's keeping hold of the wrist lock.
But
and now I've actually got a grip here. Look, and I'm trying to put an headlock on him, but he's too strong.
He's too powerful as a story in this match. He is just too powerful.
And there's a little bit of cheating on my part. I'm just going to scrape my head across his eye, but it's having no effect on him because he's too good.
And you're literally just trying to get your wrist back right now. Like,
yes.
Yeah. And unfortunately, they go to commercial there. And so we get cut to a moment where, Cesaro's attempting a wrist lock or a head scissors, but he still got the wrist lock. And I find it interesting, if you don't mind pausing for a second, Mr. Kaufman, that unlike 99% of the times we see it now, we see you do 3 kip-ups, and we just saw Cesaro do 1. They're always a defensive measure. They're always part of the fight in this match, as opposed to I'm showing my fire for my comeback, which is what we see nowadays.
Well, that's just a different way of doing it. What we're doing is it's an explosive move to get quickly off the floor, so I can try to get into control. Okay, if I come up and try and roll up, yes, you can do that, but you've got to have a plan. It's an explosive move to try to get quickly up so I can get. And if you notice, when I do a kip up, I'm not my opponent. I straight away facing my opponent. If I do a roll, I'm facing my opponent, or I'm trying to get hold of my opponent. I'm not going out away from them, because if you did that to me and you go out away from me, I'm going to loose that wrist lock and nail you right in the back of the head.
Right.
So
because you're trying to win.
Yes, I'm trying to get an advantage. He's got me in a hold. I am trying to get the advantage by doing that. But it's just an explosive way to me to get up quick so I can get hold of him. Because if I come up, roll up slowly, and sometimes you have to, depending what hold you're in. But if you're in a position where you can kip up, you're right in the person's face and you can try and take control.
There are no magic hands in this match at all. This is all real hands, man.
Right.
You want to go ahead and press play, Mr. Kaufman? So we see you guys are still just trying to get the advantage, and it really does set the table for what happens later with a few more, high impact strike type moves.
There's another thing. Can we just pause that? If you noticed, whenever he cranks on my wrist in any form, it's natural to me, because I'm the way I was taught. The first thing that happens is my eyes shoot straight to his eyes, because if I'm looking away, he could have his way with me in any way, shape, or form. I need to see what's going on with his face. So I'm not going out and looking out. I'm soon as I'm getting up towards him, I'm looking in his eyes. If there's any pain, I'm looking in his eyes, because if somebody slaps you in the face and you look away, you know that they're not a fighter. If somebody cranks something and a wrist lock, if I snap it on you quickly, it hurts. I'm looking to where the pain comes from, which is the person hitting me. It's like getting jabbed in the mouth. It hurts. And little things like that. It's again, this was to leave a prototype, a blueprint for people. It might not be the most flashiest. It's all about the little details, because after a while, what else have you got?
And if you don't mind,
and here's me with a broken neck still doing a perfect bridge.
Full bridge. And what I was going to talk about was, up until this moment, I mean, you guys it's all instinctive, it's all organic, so it's pretty amazing to see. But you try to escape from a prone position by grabbing both wrists and kind of a test of strength thing. But once you get to an upright position, you're in trouble, because now you're in a test of strength with Cesaro.
Yes.
And he bends you over. And it's very interesting, this particular sequence, as opposed to what we see a lot of times nowadays. You're in your full bridge, and most of the time now we would see Cesaro try to float on top and then some kind of reversals. But what he does in reaction to this seems, like you said, more like you would do in a fight. Like if you said, if you're in a fight, you're going to look at somebody's eyes. Like that's just what you do, because you have to know where the next punch is coming from.
Well, yeah, you have to know what he's going to do next.
Yeah, for sure. And go ahead, and this is a great sequence right here. He's in the bridge. Go ahead, yeah. So Cesaro's trying to overpower you, and your technique and experience is overcoming that a little bit, and he kicks out your leg. That is amazing. And we have him trying to get a pinfall this way, which makes absolute sense, right?
Absolutely, yeah, because he's in a perfect position. He's got all his body weight on top of me, and he can just push my arms down. He doesn't need to hook my leg there. He's got a lot of strength and weight.
As we paused in mid kip up, I want to talk about briefly the way he tried to pin you. And you talked about pins a couple episodes, and like I said, I'm watching closely. I saw a match with Jon Moxley versus Brody King this past week on Dynamite, and it appeared for a second that Moxley was making a lazy cover. And then he reaches over and grabs the other arm and shoulder to place it down. I'm like, there it is. There it is, what Mr. Regal's talking about. You're always trying to really win. And you can really see that in this match with this, what we come to know as a test of strength, but he's using it as a pinning attempt, right?
Yes. Yeah, because he's got all his weight on me, and he's pushing me down, and he's far stronger than me. It's like him, he can bench press for fun, or he can clean and snatch for fun. So he's just pushing me up, shoulders down, and it's hard to get him off the ground when he's doing that.
He's a strong fella. Go ahead, press play, and let's watch this beautiful clip. There it is. Like you said, it creates the inertia and the power to enable you to get back to your feet. But again, it is Cesaro. But again,
I have to take the cheap way out. Right, and this in old British wrestling used to be called a full Japanese stranglehold. Now it's
pause there.
Now it is not. It is a straight jacket hold. So, I don't know why it was called a full Japanese stranglehold, but if you watch any old British wrestling, it is a full Japanese stranglehold. Now it is called a straight jacket hold.
The full Japanese stranglehold, for those of you listening, is the arms crossed in front of the neck with the person behind you grabbing the hands.
I see a lot of people doing this and doing it wrong because they have their arms the opposite way. The whole point of that, if you are in a Greco-Roman knuckle lock, is it's actually a very humiliating hold. You get put in this hold, and if you twist you twist the person's own knuckles into their
carotid
arteries. Right. They can put themselves to sleep, which
that's amazing.
But somebody of his skill, you couldn't do that. But it's an old, very, very standard. Nothing that I definitely brought this back in '93, and I've used it in different forms throughout my American career. But this was a standard British, European wrestler thing that would have been seen in America in the 70s with the British wrestlers, Billy Robinson, Les Thornton, Tony Charles, those kind of guys. That this was a anywhere you went in Europe, if you went any parts of Africa, everybody knew, how to apply a Japanese stranglehold. Sorry, I have to keep saying that the correct term now is a straight jacket hold.
And falling back on your back into kind of a reverse surfboard type situation.
But you notice my shoulders are up, and you see how my feet are. Just in case anybody's going to ever try this, you have to turn your toes, not quite 10 to 2, but when you put your feet down, otherwise, and you trap the shins, otherwise they'll just flip off you. So that's how to keep them in that position. If
you're a wrestler at home or a fan like me who's watched just tons of wrestling for decades, it's effortless. It seems effortless. It seems natural. It's no way. That's why I changed what I said, because I know it. But as soon as we press play here, we'll see that not only are you fighting to keep this giant man on top of you with his arms crossed in front of his neck and his feet tied up with your feet, you're keeping his shoulder off the ground the whole time. It's amazing.
Also, I'm putting my knees into his lower back, which just takes his breath out of him.
And so now finally you have control. You have control of the situation, but you also know you're like holding a gator. If you let go, you're in trouble.
Yes, and he just
look
throws me off. And
go ahead and pause there.
This is somewhat the beginning of the end, because I tweaked my knee a little there, because my knees are that was my suspect one knee that at the time I used to have to wear big braces and that, because everything was falling to bits. Now everything's pretty good, but it wasn't because of all those years of constant banging and whatever else I was doing, getting knocked about. So
and when you watch that particular, how Cesaro gets out of that necktie, he untwists and he throws you over kind of like a snap situation, but you don't go over like that. You fly, you hurtle through the air.
Yeah, because he's strong and just threw me away like a rag doll.
It's really amazing. If you're watching on YouTube, watch this right here. That is Mr. Regal, though, and it's his last match for a bit. He's just going to go for it 100% on that. That is that, and you're saying you did tweak your knee on that particular move.
Yes. Now look.
Now Cesaro is showing damage. Now he's finally showing, okay, I've got a little bit of damage in my left arm, and you are struggling.
I'm just trying to straighten, get some movement back in my knee.
But you still have your dignity. Your head's up.
I've never had any dignity. That's
well, you're still pretending to have dignity.
Not since I was about 10 maybe.
And Cesaro's anxious to get back into it.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm keeping him at arm's length.
Right.
Not because I know how strong he is.
You have this kind of this fight is a lot for me. This and you're showing.
You can see me trying to get the feeling back in my leg there, just kicking my toe.
I love that. Get it. Now that's the cravat, right?
Okay, but before that was just a side head chancery before I got the cravat. Look how strong he is. And he
okay, pause right there.
Right. He tried to take me over, and so I tried to counter that with a variation of a dragon sleeper.
Do you remember what happens after this dragon sleeper? Do you remember the exact thing?
Yeah, I do, because it's incredible.
Very unique, sir. It's very unique.
It just shows you how incredible he is that I thought I was going to get the better of him here, and he just basically, I'm like a piece of tissue paper getting flung around in the wind. That's how strong he is.
When this is about to happen, so right now we're at a point, pause, where you have, in most cases we would see this is a very strong position, the dragon sleeper.
Yes, and I think I'm the Queen of Sheba here. I've got him. No, I haven't.
When this starts to go bad, like for you in the ring, you're like, I just better go with this. I better figure out how to, because I've never seen this before.
Going. Yeah.
You're going. Go ahead and press play and watch this, guys. And I'll describe it. Cesaro just flips him upside down. He flips him up and over from a seated position over onto his back.
Basically a suplex. Yeah. He suplexed me from a kneeling position over the top of his head. But I'm keeping hold for all my might, because I know if I lose him, I'm going to get creamed.
Right. It's like I said earlier, if you ever see guys like fight alligators, once they get a grip, they know when they let go, it's over. So they hold on. Now go ahead and pause there. Now, Mr. Regal, this is what I don't know if you've ever watched a show called The Wire. Have you ever seen that show on HBO?
No, but I do. I inherited a snake, a jungle carpet python that I have at my house, who my son left me when he moved away to do this job, moved to England, who's called Omar, and I know he's named after somebody in The Wire.
Well, the Wire,
and I know that Idris Elba was in that.
Yes, sir.
And I also know, this is just facts, right? You're going to get all these little things.
Right.
One of my favorite tunes is in that, which is "Let's Go Round Again" by the Average White Band.
Oh,
and Idris Elba's the one who's playing it, I believe, listening to it. My son told me that. Right.
You love some horns, man.
Right.
And the reason I bring up The Wire is because The Wire is known as this gritty street show that's dealers and police. But the first bullet in that entire episode, in that entire show, is almost on the last episode. It's when a young fella gets killed, and they didn't have a bullet until then. Right now, I believe we're seeing the first strikes in this match. Right.
So I just got an opening there. I got a knee into the sternum, and I caught him. Although you can see my arms, and that's the neck damage there. You can see my arms withering away. You can just see it. You can see that was what was happening at the time with my arms. They were starting to just wither away. But I know, point of your elbow and your forearm doesn't wither away.
Right.
And I got him a couple of good ones right under the chin, right on the side of the chin. So now I'm going to try and take advantage.
I guess my point is that it's so much more impactful that you didn't do strikes in this entire match, really, until this moment, right?
No, that was the first one.
That's pretty. But is that part of just your particular feeling in this match, or is that something that you've done before that you
wasn't there? It just wasn't.
Wow.
We didn't need to. We were just wrestling. I was enjoying, whether I was on top or, which is not much of this, or getting rest. But it was, again, we're leaving in 2013, leaving a traditional European into what we used to call international heavyweight style pro match, which is a whole counter hold situation. We're leaving that in a modern day for younger talent to, yes, I know you want to move faster. Yes, I know, because I can't really. I'm doing my best. I'm giving you everything I've got. This is my last stand. But things that you can take or if you just take making the stuff look as credible, or if you can just take a few of the moves, or if you can just take the believability of it and take the actual look of two people that are actually trying to beat each other, whatever it is, I'm just trying to leave you with something that's because this is maybe my last chance of ever doing that. I'd rather me be in a lot better shape than I was, and not that I wasn't in as far as conditioning wise, because I was doing all the squats and all the conditioning, but my body was wrecked by now. My arms are withering away, my pecs torn, both biceps are torn.
Wow. My
neck's broken and badly needs fixing. I didn't really know how bad, but there's things that I know, and I'm trying to get through. I wanted that 30 years. So of course, we're seeing two great athletes, and of course, you're mentioning that you're at a different part of your career than Cesaro, and that reminds us that we have a new sponsor this week, and something that we can actually talk about. Athletic Greens is a new sponsor, and we, our next partner, Athletic Greens, has a product that we literally use, and it was sent to us, and we started taking it. For me. I'm as fit as a butcher's dog now because of that.
I tell you,
I am. I have mine every day. I like it because I'm going to be quite honest here. I don't eat any green vegetables because they don't agree with me. They take all the anti-nutrients out of those and make it so you can digest it. And I digest that great and love it. Love the product. And
what we're talking about is Athletic Greens AG1. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, and it's something we all need. I need especially, and I've noticed a difference in myself as well. It's got minerals, whole food source ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right.
This the beginning of this podcast, you were asking about why all the ladies like me. It's the Athletic Greens.
I tell you,
get them down, yeah.
It probably doesn't hurt with that beautiful head of hair you have either, Mr. Regal.
Well, I've noticed a bit of the gray started going as well. Maybe that's it.
We can't promise that, but we can say
promise
this special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, which I find getting more and more important every year I get older. Your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. And of course, you can take it in the beginning of the day. I know I like to take mine in the beginning of a day, and for me, it's helped me personally with I hate to say it, but gas. As you get older, that gas gets worse and worse. And I noticed that it's helped me digest food better. It tastes great. Telling family and friends about it. And yes. I might even, if I were to leave the house and go on a trip, which I might maybe in September, I'm definitely taking it with me.
I did this week. I took mine.
Did you really?
I took mine with me. Yes.
That's fair. That's
yes.
And there's so much to say about it.
Rochester, I went this week, and I took my Athletic Greens with me.
We heard you doing commentary, and hey, when Jim Ross kept throwing to you right before the music and the introduction of the person started, I noticed you kind of laid out. Maybe you were just taking some Athletic Greens in while they were doing the introductions before you talked about the people going to the ring.
If that's what you want to think, then that's okay.
It's lifestyle friendly, folks, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It supports better sleep and recovery. And, the multivitamin is really important because tons of people take some kind of one, but it's important to choose one with high-quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. Now, Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced a ton of gut health issues, ended up on a complicated supplement routine to recover. It cost him $100 a day. He created Athletic Greens after experiencing how difficult it was to create an optimal nutrition routine on your own. Athletic Greens, by the way, you heard Mr. Regal. That's all you need. But it's got 7,000 five-star reviews. 7,000. You know how hard it is to... People are fickle. They will not give you a good review for much, but you'll get 7,000 good ones. And, it's a value-based company. They donated over 1.2 million meals to kids in 2020. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/regal. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/regal to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And Mr. Regal, I bet you wish you had Athletic Greens when you were...
When I was here, look at me.
You're getting beat about.
Derby's all hanging out and everything here. It's not anymore.
So right now, we're going to continue. We have it paused right now where you finally laid some strikes in. You have him in the corner, kind of prone. You're talking to the ref, and I believe we're about to see some true gentleman villain moments right now.
Well,
go ahead
yes.
and press play, Mr. Kaufman. And you're just talking to the ref. You're just talking to him. That's all you're doing. And go ahead and pause. You kick Cesaro in the chest 4 times, and you just pissed him off. That's all you.
Yes,
did.
Usually that, because if you watch those, I'm just pause it there, please, because I'm well known for saying it's not well known, but it's something that carried over from Tough Enough years ago that I did a bit of a speech. I'm from a different day and age. There's a reason you can't see through a lot of my tricks, or I've heard it said about Terry Funk and why he throws the best looking punch in the world, because they're there. Yeah, right. I'm hitting him. I hit very hard, and that's not the safest to play. I usually say very hard in safe places, but I'm like mule kicking him right in the sternum. Because I don't want any. That was another thing with me and Claudio Sam. It can upset. So we don't want anybody criticizing us as professionals. There's no see-through stuff. Well, there's no see-through stuff a lot of the time because we're actually knocking lumps out of each other, right? So whatever your idea of wrestling is, we don't do that stuff. We do like lay it in kind of stuff, and don't worry about it. That's the job. Try not to eat each other in the teeth or the nose. Well, sometimes the nose, but keep the teeth because they cost a fortune. But we're going to hit each other. I've just kicked him 4 times pretty hard. And this you got to remember also, this is the only time we ever wrestled each other. So I've kicked him, and all it's done is just made him angry. It's just made him like a swarm of hornets now. Look at him.
And the story told, throughout this match is that Claudio is physically just superior to you at this point. And you are relying on your veteranness, your tricks, your technique, your years of experience. And Claudio just, he's almost holding back a little bit, because right now you see this is where the match turns. He gets pissed off. This is it.
Yes, this is where he gets angry. And you can see my little thing there. Again, there's that rogue thing of me that I could do this part of my career. I could do the back kicks, and then I'd do the little...
You're holding your hands together like you're
praying.
It
might offend a few people, but I used to do the little praying thing and the crossing myself, and no referee. And that,
I want to do that.
I've got that for... I have to give Jimmy Breaks in Britain. He never did this. Well, he did a version of it. So did Cyanide Sid Cooper. But it's as I'm doing that, and I'm going, no referee. And I used to always say this to the referee: if you can't trust me, who can you trust? And that was just me with my character. So I've just done that, and I'm looking.
Look how innocent you are.
Yes, look at me. I'm a cherub.
You're a cherub. You're a cherub.
I am a cherub.
And the cherub is going to get the leg kicked out of his leg, as Bret Hart would say. Go ahead and press play.
Yes, that's idiotic on my part, because now I've just angered a far superior wrestler than me, and now
turned
he's
your back.
My leg out. And he's not only took the leg out, he's took the leg out that he saw me twinge a little bit before, which is all the psychology of that, and as a competitor. And the way he's done that is hats off to him. And now he goes and takes advantage of that little injury that he saw me, or just not having a knee pad on and having he knows that my knees are not so good. And now he's and every right to. I do the exact same thing. So that's why when I watch these, I marvel at people who actually do the same things as me, or do, in his case, do them better than me. He's attacking my leg now.
Go ahead and pause there. It went through a commercial break where he used every part of the ring to work on your leg. He used the apron. Yes. He used the rope. He's in the middle of the ring, and you get a slight reprieve. And at one point, you're literally pulling your leg away from him. At one point, he loses your leg and he grabs it back. And then you get free with some kicks to his face. Again, I think you've exposed the business a little bit, because you said, why do my kicks look so good? And I think what you really said was, because I'm kicking him.
Because I'm kicking him. I'm kicking him right. I'm kicking him right in the kipper. Yes.
Good. Press play there, Steve.
Right. I will give this trick. And it's not a trick. It's not a trick. It is a professional wrestling boots, which seems to be less and less people wearing them now, but are flat. It was part of the rules. I don't know about American rules, but British rules, the Mount Evans rules. Just pause this for a second, please.
Yeah, pause that, because we're going to talk about that.
I want to talk about that. Your boots had to be a perfectly flat boot. You were not allowed to kick with the Lord Mount Evans rules of British wrestling. You weren't allowed to kick with your toe. You had to kick with a flat part of your foot. It was illegal to kick with the point of your toe, but wrestling boots were made with a perfectly flat sole. Okay. So when I kick somebody, I'm kicking them, but I know there's only so much damage I can kick them hard, but because it's perfectly flat, it's gonna jar them, and nobody can say, "Oh, that looks phony."
Right, but it's
and
distributed.
and I'm going to be quite honest. Like again, I don't like giving my tricks.
Sure.
I'm not quite kicking it. I'm kicking him in the side of the neck,
Right.
but I'm kicking him very hard. I'm not doing anything. I'm kicking him very hard. Young wrestlers listening, do not try this until you've been shown how to do it by somebody like me, because you will end up getting creamed or getting yourself in trouble or whatever. Do whatever you are taught. I have to put a public health warning out here.
Sure. Yeah.
Do not
try this at home.
Do not try these stuff unless you are taught it by myself, Claudio, Brian Danielson, Fit Finlay, Robbie Brookside, anybody from our world who has been taught that way, or from somebody good people, Arn Andersons and people. Don't just try to do it because you've been to wrestling school. These things are proper pro tricks, right? If you could get, there's so many incredible people out there, but they're skilled things that you cannot just do to people. Start kicking people really hard in the side of the neck.
You can't.
Right? Because you will, and it won't end well.
You
right?
need to be
But
trained.
we can do that.
You
need to be well trained. Yes.
Right. And we reached the point of the match now after those kicks. Cesaro reclaimed his position and has your leg trapped, and then notices, man, there's some stuff on your knee. There's a knee pad. There's some maybe some bracing, and let's go ahead and get rid of that because I'm really targeting the knee. He's had it. He's starting to kind of take this off so he can really get at it now. So he's pulling down your
and I don't blame, and that's great strategy on his part.
Right. And again, you didn't talk boo about this match at all.
Right? Nothing at all. Just reacting to each other. And I'm going to try. Look, and I'm doing my best to try to stop him.
But he's got the leverage, so you can't set up like that. Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, when somebody drops a knee on you is one thing. When they drop a knee on you with no knee pad, it is something else.
And that's what we're seeing. And then one of those beautiful looking, I don't know why they look so good, flat kicks to your
Well, I know why they look so good, because they are that good. And he doesn't just kicks you right below the knee and the hamstring. Yes.
Right. So now he's just taking you apart. He knows he could do other things, but
and I'm trying my best, but I know I'm on a loser here.
Yeah, and he's doing. Gosh, where did I first? I guess Bret Hart used to do that a lot, the elbow drop. But now he's going for a move we're seeing a lot these days. The stretch muffler, right? We've seen Brock use it. But you used to use it.
Yes, I've used it. Yes, I'd learned that from British wrestlers. Fit Finlay used to use that a lot when I was younger, and I've wrestled him so many times that I picked certain things up when I was younger. But I mean, he just picks me up with ease, and I'm,
he's locking his hands.
Most people have no idea, how big I am until they meet me. I'm 6'3", and here I'm about 250 pounds. So look how he's
he's just grabbing a leg and picking you up.
Yeah.
And if you don't remember, he's going to remind you. He's going to put it up right there. And he's got his hands locked together, like he's really, and you are, like you say, it's not selling, it is reacting.
It's reacting to
anybody watching, anybody watching your promo, anybody watching this match is going to get swept up in it, whether they've watched wrestling or not before, because of the story that you guys are telling and the way you're telling it. It's something to be proud of, really. You can go ahead and press play there, Mr. Kaufman. And he's trying to get that submission out of you because this is a submission move.
Yes.
But
I'm stupid. I'm too stupid. I should have submitted right there.
But instead you get that rope break. And Cesaro has that look on his face like, what can I? He has a moment of doubt. He's having a little moment like, look at this guy, and you're struggling.
Usually,
look at that. Let's go ahead and pause that. What do you call that? That move you just did? It was a Mahistral Cradle, or
no? I've never done a Mahistral Cradle in my life. It's very. Johnny Saint actually was very well known for doing that. But when somebody goes for your leg, you just throw the other leg over so you can get into position to. There's nothing magical about it. It's just to get you in a better position to be able to put in a, as we call in, or used to call in Britain, a rolling crotch. Is that actual move? Not a people have different names for it here, but roll into that pin there. So and look, and again, I can't. Have you right? Usually when I do this move, the knee that he is blocking, he knows that. I put that knee onto the mat on the next to his head. If you see any old matches of me doing that, usually that knee is, I really trap that shoulder with that knee. If I do it now, I show people that all the time. That was second nature to me. That knee there comes onto the mat next to his head. He's blocked it. He's watched me so much that he's blocked me from doing that, because once you are like that, it is a very tight pin. You are very tight, and he's blocked me from doing that. So that's smart on him.
I'm sorry. The roll-up is one of the most popular finishing moves in wrestling today, but that particular roll-up just seems so organic and natural. It looked, because it was part of a sequence. It wasn't like, let me reach behind him and just roll him up. It was, he was grabbing your leg, you floated, floated behind him.
Yeah, I spun my leg over the top of him and went behind him. Again, it's what we used to call a rolling crotch.
Right, and
because you have it's a crotch hold. You actually, I'm giving you these little history lessons because they've been lost in history. If you get in the right position, your hand comes down into the crotch area, and then you roll somebody up. If you've got the leg, you haven't got quite the leverage, so you want it up.
Yeah,
right.
That's much different than a lot of roll-ups we see now. You know,
and this is this is back to back, as Americans call it, or a backslide. Is it? No, it's a backslide in America, right?
Yeah, backslide.
And a back to back in England. Now bump. Now I get a left hand, and I'm that left elbow is pretty good.
and you're getting a little momentum. Claudio's finally on the ground. You are on your feet, and now you're caught a little moment where the crowd's getting into it, and they're starting to see a little hope that you're going to pull this out. And you approach Miss Cesaro, and there's the first uppercut and another. You can go ahead and actually keep playing this. This is great. Yeah.
So two of my uppercuts, and I throw a pretty savage uppercut. One of his just completely floored me. Now he's just, he wants to just show me who throws the best uppercut. So he's not even loose of me. Look at how he's
holding your head. He's holding you up like a Muay Thai fighter.
Yeah, but he's right and lefts.
Yeah,
because most people can only do one side, which is usually they do it with a right hand. He's just done it left and right and smashed the granny out of me. But if you noticed, I hit him with two really hard ones. It barely moved. He hit me with one, and it not only knocked me down, but knocked me in my body spanning because of the way that he did it. It knocked me down, and the momentum took me around in a circle. That's how hard he hit me. And we went. That isn't a play about thing. That's a European thing, and people who can throw them. And Bret Hart was excellent at that, and certain people can throw. Claudio's exception at that. You try to knock your opponents off the feet with them. There's no playing about there. It's just one of those things that we do. The ones who can throw those hard try to knock you down with them, and it's just one of those things. It's a pride thing. Who can throw the hardest and uppercut the people in the farthest seat they can hear the crack of flesh and make them, and that's it. I see a lot of people doing them now, and they couldn't break the skin on a rice pudding with them. They need to work on them because it's took a very hard to learn, and takes a lot of skill and a lot of time to learn how to throw those properly. And I wish people wouldn't do them until they know how to do them as well as he can do them. Or Bret Hart could do one, or I could do one, and Fit Finlay, and the world's best at them was Dave Taylor.
It's kind of an interesting thing. Like you said, everything's organic, nothing's planned. But for us fans, if we were to, American fans, when we're looking at that European uppercut, we associate it with Mr. Regal. And so Mr. Regal throws a couple of the things that we associate with him. And then Claudio is like, there's a new guy in town. And he throws you 10, holding you up, ragdolling you like the Incredible Hulk and Loki.
Yeah.
He's holding you up and just beating them. And now we're getting a shot now. He's frozen.
When I say he's 10 times
Superman.
a man and wrestler than I ever was, I'm not just exaggerating.
He's a monster,
he is.
Man.
He was, and he is. And as a human being, he is. He's not a rogue like me. He doesn't have any of my problems, my faults of whatever they may be. Sometimes they can be, good things, and he's just a great everything that's right about this job.
And that's why I say, man, this is the best podcast for me to listen to, and for you at home, because what do we always hear about Cesaro? Why didn't they do more? Why did they do this? We don't do that. We're talking about the good stuff. Like, this guy is a monster. It's the positive stuff. There's enough stuff. Who knows about all that other stuff, and who cares about that? We're looking at a guy who is at the top of his game, and that was right. This is 9 years ago, and he hasn't even got to the peak of his game yet. That's the incredible thing. I'm 45 here, right? And for the last few years of my career, I was getting by from, right? He is what I don't know, I know, but I know he's getting up there. He's younger,
He's younger, but he's not even at the peak of his game yet. He's got several years before he even hits his peak, right? This is a completely different kind of a wrestler.
I think he's 33 in this match.
He's 33 in this match.
Yeah.
Right. So he's 33 in this match. And as of right now, as we speak, he still isn't at his peak. And that's a different kind of cat altogether.
It really Are you trying to say, Mr. Regal, that the kind of guy that would do a big swing on top of like a 30-foot cage is a different type of cat? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Because I find that kind of hard.
I mean, this lad's in a different world.
All right, go ahead and press play, because I think we're going to get that big swing.
It's all that fresh milk in Switzerland and all that. Two Toblerones a day and all that.
I think they create athletic greens by, getting blood out of Cesaro, and now he's,
and I'm still trying to, I'm trying to push him up.
You know what's coming, and you're fighting it. And that's something interesting to see too. A lot of people just go with it, and you're like, I don't want to get in this swing. Oh, but there it is.
It's my knee. I remember my knee being stretched to the max there. That felt like the tendons were going to rip out. And I'm not joking there. I felt like my knee was going to just pop out. There's so much pressure on my knee there.
Go ahead and pause right there. Mr. Regal, I have a lot of respect for you. But I just want to say, you kind of look like roadkill at this moment. Like,
yes, I am.
Cesaro is. I mean, you're giving everything you've got, and he's giving everything he's got. I'm
giving everything I've got. I know this is maybe the last time I'll ever be out there, which it ended up being.
And that's the story.
I've given everything. I'm giving it everything I've got. This is the last stance, and I'm getting just thrown about like it don't matter how many years. I've been 30 years at this time. It was 30 years of all the best trainers, all the best people I could have wrestled, and I'm getting just annihilated by this person.
I'm taking a picture of this particular frame because it's telling the story. You got basically Superman just standing there, and he's now catching his first wind, and you've got poor Mr. Regal just on the crowd, just ready to do what you can. It's a pretty amazing moment. Go ahead and press play there, sir, and hopefully, mercifully, hopefully, he doesn't hurt you anymore. But look, this is a moment where the sadistic Cesaro. Now,
and that's another thing like about him. People he's had moments in the last several years where people have actually started to think he's nice. No, there's a very sadistic side to him, and if you upset him, it doesn't play out well for you.
Now he goes for the neutralizer, which we know would be a wrap, and you backdrop out of it, and you go for his arm. Go ahead and pause it, because that turns the match a little bit, because you're kind of like going for the eye of the Death Star.
I'm going on experience and instinct now. Take his arms away from him, because that's I know he can hit me with those. This is his uppercut, right? I took the one arm out.
Right, you took the one arm out with your knee. He got up. He reset. Now he's going to the corner, and the camera
dropped
kind of
both of my knees and shins across his biceps and his forearm. Try and deaden his arm.
Go ahead and play this right here.
And I put my knees up, and you can't quite see it off that shot, but I put my knee up and stopped that arm, and then I just take his leg out, and now both of his arms are down.
But the announcers tell the story. I missed it. The announcers tell the story. But now
drop that. But I'm you trying to use that take back to both arms, trying to jar his elbows as much as possible.
It's like you're attacking an octopus. You're like taking on each of their limbs and trying to break each one.
Yeah,
because each one could kill you. And this a rare moment where, and if you look at Cesaro trying to get the feeling back in his arms and his shoulders. Some more European uppercuts.
Exploder suplex there.
Pause there. So what is going through your mind now, if you don't mind pausing just for a second? What's going through your mind now?
I'm taking his arms out. I'm trying to knock the wind out of him. I gave him a shot to the knee after I'd taken both of his arms out. So I'm just basically trying to break him down in whatever chance I've got. His arms are the most dangerous things he's got that I think at the moment. That will come back to bite me in a minute. I try and dead leg him basically. You didn't quite see the shot, but ran my shoulder into his leg, into his thigh to take his one leg away from him, and then I exploded suplex him, which knocks the wind out of you and lands you on your back, and also makes your feet hit the floor violently, which sends shocks up through your legs and into your neck, and that's what I did. And I actually did. That was the plan. Now try to take him down as much. This is in my mind as I'm rest. Now people might start thinking, oh, I'm trying to talk like this. This is how I'm thinking in there, with not knowing. This is just professionalism of telling a story of how I would break down this person who's better than me. Take out the arms, try and get rid of one of the legs, take the wind out of him, and then try and do what I can. From now on, it's as weakened as I can, and I'm as weakened. I'm already weakened. Let me try and do something now, because if I don't, if he gets his strength back, or if he gets his wind back, or if he gets the feeling back in his arms, I don't have much chance left.
And this is your chance right here.
This is my chance.
This is it. Go ahead and play it.
This is it.
So you just hit that exploder suplex. The crowd is into it. The crowd is seeing hope. And you're taking a moment. Oh, you're gonna.
I was going to try to give him my finish, which is a running knee, and my knee just wasn't. And
I pause there. What do you call that move, Mr. Regal? What's that?
That's a knee to the chin.
Okay.
Nothing nice about that. We happened to collide, not quite headbutt each other, but the side of the faces collided, and then he went for my leg, and I just, out of sheer desperation, brought my knee up right on the point of his chin.
So now anything goes. Yeah.
Now I've got another opening.
Go ahead and play it. And you still want that finish. You still want that running knee.
Yeah, but it's not happening. I know. I just tried it, and I know my knees. I've got no takeoff power.
Okay, stop right there.
I'm pulling him up by the ear.
You talked about magic hands before. This is you grabbing his ear like
his ear. Yes,
like a young boy who has not done his chores for the day.
Right, I'm grabbing it by the ear. How can I grab? What else can I grab? He's got it shaved up. Yeah, there's no air to grab.
Right.
my hands, I'm sweating anyway. He's sweating. If I put my hands on his, I grabbed him just a little bit ago. I grabbed him by the chin and pulled him up. But now, if I try anything, I wasn't in that position. So the smartest thing to do is to grab his ear, because I don't care who you are. If I grab your ear, you're coming with me, unless you want to lose that ear. And he's not a stupid man. He's far from. He's an intellectual. Yes, he's in the ring. In real life, this man is a incredibly smart man. He knows if I pull on his ear, there's no way he can train his ears. So he's gonna. I'm pulling him up by the ears, right? I'm grabbing his ear, and he's gonna come with me because I can't do anything else, right? So that's
and think about. After watching this, just hard, it starts with the wrist control and starts with, and now we have hard hitting stuff. Imagine how much it would take the watcher out of the match if you just grabbed the back of his head.
If I just put my hand on the back of his head and he stood up now, this whole thing, the illusion would be gone.
It'd be gone, right? Go ahead and play. It would be gone. So now you're going double arm
for a double arm suplex. You call it a butterfly suplex. Just too strong. And he just stands up. And look at him shaking. He's trying to get those little details there. His fingers, because his arms are. He's trying to get the feeling back.
So he suplexes you out of it, but you hold on to it.
Yeah, and now I'm trying, because one thing I do have is to get Now let me just pause that. Let's pause that there, just so we break down this move. When I put that on, it's. The leg is figure forward, so the ankle, the foot that is closest to us is behind the kneecap. Then you put my body weight, as you can see, my hip is trapping his leg. That pushes the kneecap out. It also, my other side of my hip is pushing against his ankle, twisting his ankle the other way. So his legs are tied up now. So when I go underneath his arm here, that straightens his shoulder out. If I go round, once I go around his face, that claims his jaw. Once I lock that in and stretch back, it's straightening his elbow out. It's pulling his shoulder out the joint. It's putting him in a cross face, across his chin. His knee's already in jeopardy and his ankle's in jeopardy. So that's why it was such a good submission to put on people, because it doesn't just affect, like a cross face is just the face. Here, right. There's so many different body parts that are really stretched to the limit when it's put on tight.
And right. People know to look for this from you. And so, we hear this a lot these days, cooperation. You see cooperation, but you see, this is a move everybody's seen from you a million times. We go, here it comes, but you have to fight for every single inch of it, right?
And he's not going to let me. I mean, again, we're going in with a different mindset. This is a athletic competition that we're going in to leave a mark, that we want people to be able to. We talked about it last week. I want people to be able to watch this in 30 years' time and it will still hold up. Well, this is 9 years and it's holding up to me. Right? And so I know this will hold up in another 20 years. And I know it'll hold up in another 30, right? And it's a good study guide as far as detail and the psychology of why you would do something and why you wouldn't, and breaking body parts down, right? For any younger wrestlers that want to add their stuff to it, add their style, but it makes sense. Everything in there made sense as far as what we were going for, how we were trying to beat each other, and two people trying to beat each other.
And something just made a lot of sense. You saw your moment to use the move that may have gotten you the most victories that we've seen, and you couldn't get it in. No. Cesaro climbs with he's too powerful, climbs to the rope, and you let out an anguished yell. Like, this was your chance.
Yeah.
That
was the last chance. Yeah.
This is it. You can't even get this in. So what are you supposed to do now?
Right.
And it's just what a story. Go ahead and press play there.
And you can see that, and this is another little thing. This is a very subtle thing, but purposely done on my part. I would very, very, very pause that, please, because I want to explain this. if you can pause that, please.
Yeah,
If you go back, just go back a second or two. After I've tried my, go back.
A little bit. Yeah,
Right.
right after the Regal stretch.
Right.
Yeah.
After that. This is something I would normally never do. Out of sheer frustration, I turn my back on my opponent, which is not something I would ever do because I am so, I don't know what else to do. And it's a mistake on my part, but I did that purposely. I wanted to show that I was completely out of ideas of what to do.
Out of ideas, out of options.
Out of options. But
yeah.
It wasn't, I didn't turn my back purposely. It was just, that was what I was trying to tell there, because you very rarely see me turn my back on an opponent.
We don't curse on.
I am just trying to show that I don't know what to do next.
I was going to say, we don't curse a lot on this show, but the look on your face says I'm fucked. Like it is, it's like, you know, that's the look. Like, look at you now. You're just almost, okay, I'll fight it. Go ahead and press play. And let's see how this thing turns out. Oh, look. And a rare drop kick from Cesaro. He is also
right on the button.
Just beautiful, right? Just, you know, he could have overshot you. He's so athletic at 6'3". And right now he's trying to get his feeling in his arms. It looks like he might be trying to throw his shoulders back in place. And again, Mr. Regal looking like, this is it right here. Pause. We just saw something that you referenced on All Elite Wrestling, that Mr. Cesaro put you out of wrestling with a double stomp to the head. That's not something you talked about. You said that's insane. That's
it jumped on my head with 2 feet.
Yeah. Jeez, you know,
and that was the end of that. Anything else? But he jumped on my head with 2 feet, and you can just see it there. And I defy anybody to tell me where the trick is.
And also and we're watching it again.
Just the way look. Did you see the way he hit the ropes there?
Yep.
He didn't. He kept his because he couldn't use his arms. That's the.
Look at him. He did. His arms are prone. That's amazing.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, and you've just shown that in slow motion. Okay, where's the trick?
No holes. The trick is he stomped on your head with 2 feet.
Right.
And character wise, even it seems that it's not something we've never seen him do before or since, I think. And so it's like he's going to the bottom of his barrel, drop kicks, stomps to try to win this match. And before we bring this home, we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to you, Mr. Regal, which is maintaining consistent deep sleep. And we found out from science that the way to do it is lowering body temperature. In this match, your temperature is probably about 109 degrees right now. But to sleep, you need to lower. And temperature-controlled sleep repairs muscle after a hard day's work and improves cognitive function. So you always start your day feeling sharp and alert. Mr. Regal, you like your ChiliSleep. I know that.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, I wish they could take it away with me. The days that I'm going working for AEW, I wish they could take it away. But I like to get everything in. I cram all my suit and everything in a carry-on bag and shirts and stuff. So there's no room. But yes, it is definitely a difference when I get home and I get into bed and it's lovely and cool. Ooh.
They do make, I know people that do travel with them, and I'm sure now they've heard that it might be figured out for you, because I know, again, Conrad, a good friend of mine, he will not go anywhere without his ChiliSleep, and I know his wife will not either. And that's because they make customizable climate-controlled sleep solutions that help you improve your entire well-being. And the product is called the Uller, and the other one is the Cube Sleep Systems. And what they're hydro-powered, which is water, temperature-controlled mattress toppers that fit over your existing mattress to provide your ideal sleep temperature. These luxury mattress pads keep your bed at the perfect temperature for deep sleep, whether you sleep hot or cold. Some people like to wake up, and I know you can set it where you can go to sleep at a certain temperature and wake up at another. So maybe you want to go to sleep and keep it cool, but wake up to a nice warm bed. These sleep systems are designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and give you the confidence and energy to power through your day. Imagine waking up and not feeling tired. ChiliSleep can help make that happen. And for an extra layer of comfort, they also make the Chili Blanket, the only weighted blanket that can also be paired with a control unit for the ultimate sweat-free sleep. And of course, not only do you talk about you like the ChiliSleep, but you talked about you've always had problems with sleep, as do I.
Yes, I have. Yes.
And
I've been talking to the people there, and I'm trying to get them to invent a microwave bed where you can get 8 hours sleep in 4 minutes. That's what I want next. And I just let you know, because this is it's not funny, but it's a sad tale. And you won't get this with the ChiliSleep because it's perfect and it works. I bought my mother-in-law, she wanted a water bed. I should have got a Ula from ChiliSleep, but she wanted a water bed. Well, it's always cold in England, and it's got a heated element in, and she put it on it, and she went to sleep and overheated, and she poached to death. So
you are, and you Brits do love some poached food. You do love your eggs Benedict but you won't get poached in a ChiliSleep.
No, absolutely not. It's perfect. It's wonderful.
We don't guarantee a lot, but we will guarantee you will not be poached to death like poor Mr. Regal's mother-in-law.
Yes.
And if you want to learn about ChiliSleep, like I said, everybody who uses it loves it. Head over to chilisleep.com/Regal to learn more and save 30% off the purchase of any new Cube or Uller sleep system. The offer is available exclusively for Gentleman Villain with William Regal listeners, and only for a limited time. That's Chili, CHILI, sleep.com/Regal to take advantage of our exclusive discount and wake up refreshed every day. And guess who's not refreshed is Mr. Regal in this match, because you just got stomped on your dome by a 250-pound Swiss, multilingual Swiss man. And if you look at his face right here, he just did, it's almost like he's a bad guy, but he did something maybe even beneath him, because his demeanor, we talked earlier, he looks sadistic. And slowly but surely, we see a little bit of a change. How would you describe that?
I've talked a lot about certain things that I was doing in this match. If you watch Claudio's part of this match, he is doing a masterful job of telling an emotional ride of what he's doing through this match, whether it be trying to beat me, getting angry when the time's right, taking advantage, making me suffer. But also near the end here, it's a masterful job of his conflicting emotional problems that he's having, because he realizes he's gone a little too far here, and he's and this is storyline driven, but he had always, I was one of the wrestlers that sort of made him think, and another European has made it. Let's I can be that person as well. And he's done far better than I have and he's far better than I ever was. But he tells that story as well. If you go into it with that he wants to prove a point, but now it's frustrated him so much that he couldn't quite have it his own way, that he's gone to lengths that he didn't want to, and he shows that perfectly. And his range of skills, of his reactional skills here are superb, and he does a fantastic job of showing that.
Let's see some of that emotion now. Go ahead and press play, because you're done. He could get the pin now.
I'm completely done.
But he's looking back at you. He sees the ref, and he has a pause, and we see a complete. It's not just a facial change; it's a body language change in Cesaro. Like, what have I done? What have I done? That's kind of it, right?
That's it. He knows his one.
Yeah, but he also now, as you said, he has said it. He looks up to you, and also your styles are. Yeah.
Well, I'm just and he's feeling I've gone too far, but now he sees me moving, and it's like he's not. I've still got to prove a point. Look, I don't want to, but
these little moments of mercy.
Just
little moments.
This is wonderful stuff on his part.
He's going for the neutral. Look at
his face. I don't really want to do this, but I've got to show everybody, and I've got to prove a point.
And I believe he might even think better of it. He thinks better of it.
Yeah,
he could have done it, but
look at that. This is watching. This is
Shakespeare.
It's
Shakespeare
stuff.
And now, what does he do? He wants to win. He wants to win. You can see that. But
look,
he respects you.
I'm just not giving up. I'm still trying to get that last bit, and he's like, "Stay down, you silly old fool." He's basically what he's doing here. Stay down, but I won't stay down. So he's got to finish me off. Stay down. Just stay down because I don't want to do any more to you.
And he comes alive, grabs you, puts you in the neutralizer, and throws you down. But takes a moment and gets that 1, 2, 3. You can pause right there. We talked about his emotion on his face. We've seen this particular thing play out before in matches, or attempted to, or done well, such as Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair. That's an example that's kind of close. I don't think I've ever seen it done as well as this. And I think what you're saying is just Claudio just hit not a home run, but a grand slam on that.
Yes. And so for all these years, when I've heard that these things I hear about him, I've been the one screaming, you don't, this person, as you hear me saying now, what all these things I say about him, he has got an incredible emotion. He's got everything you could ever want, and he's just that match alone, just showing the emotional range that he can pull off in a 17-minute match.
Yeah.
He showed every single thing that you need to be as an excellent professional wrestler. He has just pulled it off with skill set, the way he looks, the way he carries himself, everything that it goes without saying. But then the emotional attachment to telling a story, and for some reason, I think it's because he's too good. Sometimes you can get overlooked when you're too good because you relied on to make a lot of other people look good. Yeah. And it can be a curse.
A victim of your own success. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if we got round to this last week, but within the first month of me being in America, I had both Arn Anderson and Paul Orndorff. No, sorry, not the first month, first 3 months. Arn Anderson and Paul Orndorff both came up to me and they went, "Well, you're screwed." And I went, "What? You don't hear that when you're 24. Why is that?" It's because you can do this job, and you'll end up like us. When you're like us, you're always going to be putting people over. Maybe that's the thing with Claudio.
Yeah, and it's something we don't talk about ever on the show, but it's the politics of it, And
so I don't want to get into that. Leave that for other people to talk about.
Right. Of course,
I'm just saying. And as somebody who's in the wrestling, you want. Sometimes you need people like that. I have an opinion with Claudio that he was relied on. The time never came. But he's one of the very, very few people ever that I see, and everybody's got their own view. I'm just seeing from my point of view, at any one time, you could have made him overnight, made him world champion, and everybody would have bought it.
Absolutely. I was
because
just going to say
of that build-up of trust with the audience. It's that thing of every time you see him, whether you know it or not, he's building up trust with you. And in some form, whether it be his feats of strength, whether it just be his ability, whether it be the way he looks, whether he carries himself, he builds up trust with you as a fan watching. And you know that at any time, and we've seen it over the years when they just give him a bit of spotlight and he swings somebody, or he does a feat of strength and people come alive for him. Like last year, I saw there was that one match with it, and it was Bryan Danielson and Claudio in a multi-man match, the chamber thing, and they started off, and just people were just coming. He just, and maybe it just wasn't his, they were just, well, we can, anytime we can pull the trigger on him. Maybe I don't, because I don't know, I have no idea, but that's the way people, there's very few come along like him, and that's what I sometimes wonder whether that was just the case.
Right,
he's too valuable to be putting people up to be doing other things, because he can do everything, and he never complains, and he turns up and he's a pro, and you can send him to do anything. And there's very few people around like that are like that. Very few, a minute amount of people. But he's also the same kind of person that at any one time he could have beat anybody and become world champion, and not one person would bat an eye, and they'd be going.
And still. I
mean, that's now he's getting
let's do
maybe
it.
That's let's do it. Yeah, that's the thing. So
my son and I, in the last 10 years, I got divorced, and my son was 10, and we made watching wrestling a priority, going to wrestling shows. And one of the most impressive things we ever saw live, ever, was Cesaro. I can't remember what city it was in, because we've been to so many, but it was a Raw after Mania where there's a beach ball in the crowd. Are you aware of what happened with the beach ball?
No.
And this man, this beach ball interrupted like 3 matches in a row. People were talking about the beach ball, chanting beach ball. This man, Cesaro, in the middle of a match on Raw, ran at full speed, hurdled the barricade like a hurdle champ, runs into the crowd, grabs the beach ball, and runs back. And it was one of the most amazing, in the middle of the match, just one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. He's just a super athlete and totally gets it. And like I said, or like you said, if there was a surprise matchup of him and a world champion and he got that belt, no one would say boo, except literally no one would say boo. They would all cheer.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's play the rest of the thing out.
Okay.
It's all emotion at this point. That's all we have left.
Oh, we got, yeah.
And he could beat me
and
down.
I'm just showing enough life to give him something to show emotion for, which is, again, is just.
We see the double stomp to the head in replay, a move we haven't seen before or since. And then that great neutralizer. I noticed he did not do his taunt he usually does before the neutralizer. He didn't do the thing where he crooks his head. He wanted to get over with.
He wanted to just put me out of my misery.
Now this is important. They almost talk over it. They almost cut away from it, but he's following you kind of to make sure you're okay.
Yes.
And he pulls you up, and we can pause as soon as we can see them both right here. Yeah. We can pause that. Look at that. Look at that shot. He extends his hand out to you. Why is he doing that?
It's a respect thing. I've just given him the person that he supposedly looked up to, has given him a battle, and he's thanks for giving me the battle you've just given me.
What is going through your mind? Not on screen, but what the real person. I don't know where that line for you is often blurred, but what are you literally thinking right now in your head as you look at him extend his hand out?
Probably the same as every other day. Oh, just especially after a match. Oh, I'm glad that went well.
It sure did. And how do you feel watching this today in 2022?
I was just happy that it held up, and with the idea that I went in there not knowing that I wasn't up completely anywhere near what I could have been, but wanting to leave a sort of old style European style match with two people who knew how to do it, but also every little detail and that for somebody to go back and watch one day, which I find is what a lot of things are for me. I'm never going to be, I never was, I've heard this term like best bout machine and stuff. That was never my thing. All I was I tried to be the best detail wrestler in the world, and whatever I was given, I'd try to put as much the details about to make things look right, or make sure you couldn't see through. Again, the card magic thing, the close-up magic, I wanted to leave that because I couldn't keep up with everybody else. I didn't have the wrestling brains of somebody like Bret Hart. I wasn't as good as him. But as far as detail, I could hold up with anybody if you break it down into detail of the way things looked. And that was what all I could do.
I talk about details a lot in teaching music and with these kids that I teach in bands. And a lot of times I say details is just caring. Would you say that the reason that you were good at details because you cared so much about making sure that, you didn't just do the bare minimum, you made sure it was a big picture?
I cared so much because the people who taught me cared so much to teach me those skills and the mindset to be able to do that. Everything about me, it's all about the P. It's not about me. It's about the mostly British wrestlers that took the time to teach me those things and to give me those mindsets, which is Bobby Barron to start with, and then Marty Jones and Pete Roberts and Dave Taylor and Tony Sinclair, and especially Terry Rudge and Pete Roberts, and then Johnny South and Skull Murphy, and if I miss anybody, I'm so sorry because there's so many of them, but they were all so good to me and taught me all that. And Johnny Saint, because he was my traveling partner every day. And number one on top of the list of everything is Robbie Brookside, because he was the one who helped me put it all together by wrestling him so much. Everything I was getting told, I had so many matches with him that those things became second nature to me. For when that was in my late teens, before I turned 20, when I started wrestling all these heavyweights and being able to keep up with them and then travel the world. So without those people, that's what I care about, is the detail. I care about keeping that alive, and hopefully I've passed that on to a few people, or little bits of it at least. That's what I care about.
Well, this was an idea we had, and I think it worked out really well. I imagine the people listening are going to really enjoy it and want to hear more things like this. It doesn't necessarily have to be a match you were in. It could be several matches. But at the same time, I'd like to thank you for doing this and taking the time to take the time. And I'd like to take the time to thank Steve Kaufman, who was on video the whole time and press pause and play and put this all together for us. Dominic D'Angelo is on with us as well. He does their social media.
Dominic,
graphics,
thank you.
Does a million things.
Dominic must hate me because I never go on Twitter and do anything.
The guy who does the job that I used to do, Wesley Burleson, who does all our producing, and of course, poor Derek Sabato, who does our research, who I change up on every single week, and Richard Land helps him. Anybody I'm forgetting, of course, Dave Green with Podcast Heat, and Conrad Thompson as well. And we'd like to thank you for listening to this great, I think, episode. And we'll see you next time on the Gentleman Villain Podcast with William Regal.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Thank you.